For those who don't know me, my name is Sin, and I'm going to introduce Bante today or tonight. And then after that, Sophia will take over and moderate the Q&A session later on. So first of all, I'd like to pay respect to the triple gems, the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And I would also like to pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land. Where I am now is the Wadu Medical Country. And so, welcome. We are lucky to have you, Bhante Ariyañāṇa. Thank you so much. We've been
Thank you very
communicating
much.
over the past few months now, and it's great to finally see you here online. And thank you so much once again for kindly offering to share the Dharma with us. And reading your bio, it was
Sure.
very interesting. It's really interesting. Let me just read out the bio first.
Okay.
Okay, so Venerable Ariyañāṇa, born Stefano Domit Cervo in Brazil. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Bante. Yeah.
Servo, Cervo or Servo.
Cervo. Okay.
Servo like Italian surname.
All right. Is a former flamenco dancer who captivated global audiences with his performances until 2015, when he embarked on a transformative quest as a Theravāda Buddhist monk. Inspired by his mother, a flamenco dancer herself, he, at the age of 11, followed in her footsteps, initially playing percussion and then dancing, teaching, and choreographing. Later, at the age of 17, he moved to Spain, the homeland of flamenco, where he achieved significant acclaim, including first place at the Festival Flamenco de Almería and the, forgive me for my pronunciation, I'm trying my best now. This is my Spanish version. Premio
Thank you.
Extraordinario de Danza de la Comunidad de Madrid.
Very good, very good, very good.
As choreographer and soloist, he participated in Heartbeat of Home, a production of the creators of the global phenomenon Riverdance. In collaboration with top-notch flamenco artists, he performed in venues ranging from traditional tablaos in Madrid to iconic concert halls in Amsterdam. His short but dynamic career took him across the Americas, Europe, and Asia, with critics praising him as a dancer with stately carriage and rapid-fire heelwork, combining incredible rapidity and precision in passion-filled flamenco numbers that were truly captivating and incredibly moving and powerful. Oh my gosh, Bante, what are you doing here? So, seeking deeper meaning and inner peace in 2015, Bante embarked on a transformative inner journey. A retreat with Thomas Dhammadipā in India introduced him to Theravada teachings, leading him to the PAOK tradition in Myanmar. There, he spent approximately 7 years under the guidance of PAOK Sayadaw, his preceptor, and other teachers such as Venerable Kumara Biwamsa. Continuing his spiritual path, in 2022, Bhante Ariyañāṇa joined the Nisaya Mutaka course in the International Institute of Theravada in Sri Lanka, where he now deepens his traditional Theravada Buddhist studies and leads the English language studies for monastics. Okay, what a bio. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to you, Bhante, to lead the session for
Thank you
us.
very much, Sing. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you finally, live. And nice to meet you too, Sophie, and all of you from the Metta Center. So I intended to explain a bit my background, but Sin has already done that for me. And yeah, I just like to connect a bit this with why I became a monk, why I came from this background. And I think even though it's not my topic today, I'm not here to talk about actually myself, but it connects to the topic. And the point is that even though I was in a fairly successful career, I think it was on the way to being successful as a dancer, as a flamenco dancer, and I had good conditions for all of that, a good support. My family was supporting me as well. And I just had kind of certain, there was something lacking, something deeper lacking. And I started relying and searching for more and more meditative practices for me to kind of depend on, and to give me a kind of a certain peace or certain fulfillment that I was not getting even with a fairly successful career. So I think that actually matches very well what how the Buddha describes sensory experiences, sensory objects, sensory pleasures, and as being with little happiness and much trouble, right? So I think I was fairly lucky. I met Thomas Dhammadippa. He was a wonderful first impression that I got. He was very knowledgeable and very mindful. He really embodies many of the qualities of meditation. And that was my first inspiration, and he recommended me to go to Myanmar. That's where I went immediately from India. And what was supposed to be a short retreat ended up being years and years of practice in this meditation center. And then later I ended up coming here to Sri Lanka to join this course, which is one of the few courses, I think, traditional, where you can actually learn Dhamma deeply in an English medium, and still with teachers who are deeply rooted in traditional studies. So that was also a very wonderful chance I got. And so I joined this course, and here I am. This is the third year. I'm still learning, but I'm here to share a bit of what I've learned with you, and I hope you enjoy. At the end, you can ask me some questions. And I'll start maybe a little bit different from your normal schedule. So I heard you normally start meditating. I think I would like first to start discussing some topics until we come to meditation, and then we'll meditate together for some time, depending on the time, and then we'll open for you for some questions at the end. Okay, so first, a bit of a traditional touch. I'll do some Namo Tassa in Pali and recite a little bit some Pali stanzas, which really summarize the Buddha's teachings in a very in a beautiful way. And you can also hear Pali language with a little bit of a gypsy or flamenco touch, which I can bring. So you can also recite with me if you want. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sabbe sankhara anicchati yada panyaya passati atanimbindati dukkhe samaggo visuddhya. Sabbe sankhara dukkhati yada panyaya passati atanimbindati dukkhe samaggo visuddhya. Sabbe dhamma anantati yada panyaya passati atanimbindati dukkhe samaggo visuddhya. So now I'll bring you to the board, and then I can draw and help you maybe visualize a little bit what I'm saying. I think it's helpful. So I'll use the smart board to help us. Okay, so I'll begin by taking a look into the whole purpose of the Buddha's teachings, which is to remove unwholesome states and mental unwholesome states or evil states of mind, right? The whole purpose of the Buddha's teachings we could summarize into purification of the mind, purification of evil or unwholesome or dark mental states. So what are these dark mental states? We can call them in Pali akusala states. So what are these unwholesome states? akusala states in Buddhism, they are usually mental states. Actually, they are always mental states. Material things, we have pleasant or unpleasant material things, that's true. But normally things that are akusala are mental states. And these mental states have some basic characteristics. So in order to understand them a bit better, let's discuss these four. So the first characteristic of all unwholesome or dark states is that they are rooted, or they depend, or they associate three main unwholesome roots. These are three main unwholesome roots. They are called lobha. In Pali, this is a greed. Dosa is the second unwholesome root, any state of hatred or aversion, and moha. Moha is the delusion type of ignorance. So these are the three root unwholesome states. And all other mental states that associate these three in some way, they are all under akusala. They are dark states. Now, another reason why they are called akusalas is that they break mental peace. So they break the mental peace or mental tranquility. Okay? So whenever these states arise, whenever greed arises, whenever aversion arises or delusion, there is a certain mental oppression, or the tranquility of the mind is broken by those states. So that's one basic characteristic of these unwholesome, dark mental states. Another one is that not only do they oppress the mind, but they also oppress the body as well. Even the body, when we have, for example, I think states of fear or anger are very clear indication of this, this fact. And whenever, for example, imagine when you're feeling very sad, or you're feeling angry, or averse or sad, then your body may feel weak, and you may feel like heavy, and you may not be able to eat and do your activities. You may not be able to focus as well. So these unwholesome states, they kind of oppress the body to some extent. And this mechanism can be studied more in depth when we studied what rupa actually is, material phenomena, according to Buddhism, how it occurs, what they depend on, and how the connection between mind and body and mind happens as well. One affects the other. So here, unwholesome states, they affect the material body itself. And the last and most important characteristic is that they produce, these unwholesome states, they produce bad or unpleasant results in the future. This refers to the law of karma. Here, this is more connected to the law of karma. If we pay attention, these first three are quite evident. We can kind of feel that. We can see that with our own experience, right? It's not so difficult to see that. But this last and most important characteristic is a bit harder to see. And this is what the Buddha is teaching, and it shows that this is actually the main characteristic of akusala states. They bring about painful, or they bring about unpleasant results in the future. It can be in the future in this very life, or most often in future lives. So this is connected already to the belief in karma and vipaka, the round of rebirths, and so on. So these mental states, they occur in the mind, not all the time, as we know by experience. They have 3 levels, and these levels are called in Pali avatas. So we have like 3 stages or levels of these defilements, these dark states. They are called avata. Okay? Now these 3 stages help us understand a bit about how the mind works, about how these defilements work, and it also helps us understand how to actually gradually remove these unwholesome states, which is our goal, right? So the first state, it's called anusaya. In Pali, can translate it as a latent or maybe dormant state. This is the stage, the avatar of these defilements, then that when they are not active, when they are not manifest in the mind. For example, now we're discussing Dhamma, we are quite peaceful, we're discussing, so there is understanding, there is faith occurring in the mind, and we are free, for example, from hatred or fear, for example, or attachment. So those states are not manifest right now in our minds, but they are in a latent stage. And this is what this anusaya stage means. It's like a dormant state in which it can arise if the conditions are suitable. So if a certain condition, for example, some difficult condition, for example, a dreadful situation or some danger appears, then those defilements, for example, the fear will occur in the mind. So before it occurs, it's still called in the anusaya stage. Here, one disclaimer is that not all unwholesome states are actually called anusayas. This is cannot be generalized to all of them. Anusayas is especially said of those that are a bit stronger unwholesome states, tamagata. Okay, but here I'm just having a general perspective and just generalizing that unwholesome states overall, they have this stage in which they are kind of dormant in our mind. So based on this anusaya stage, it is correct to say that we right now have greed, we right now have hatred, we right now have delusion, okay, even though it's not manifest. Okay, then if the conditions are met, these defilements can come and arise in the mind, actually occur, manifest in the mind. So this is the second stage of this defilements. It's called pariyuttana in Pali, which we can translate as maybe manifest. Okay, this is the state in which the defilement actually appears in the mind. It arises as a mental state. It arises, it does its function because all mental states do perform a certain function and they vanish. So they enter into existence and vanish. So that is a manifest state, okay? Then, if this manifest state is intense enough, if it is strong enough, it can then lead to bodily or verbal actions. So this would be a next stage, which is the stage of vitikama. Vitikama can be translated as maybe transgression. Transgression. Okay? So this you could think of it as maybe when the defilement is strong enough, like a solution on a pot. If it's boiling too much, it overflows out. So the defilement as well, when it is too strong, it actually leads into, or it overflows into speech, and it overflows into bodily actions. And then these actions performed due to these defilements are unwholesome actions. Actually, the unwholesomeness is in the mind, right? So these are the three stages in which these dark, unwholesome mental states occur in the mind. Now, let's take a look at their counterparts. We also have bright mental states, good, beautiful mental states. So they could be called here, generalized as kusala mental states. Previously, we discussed akusala. Akusala comes from na kusala. Na is not. So not kusala or not skillful. Kusala can be translated as skillful or wholesome, healthy. So these are bright mental states, and they also can be classified in many ways, and they can be developed into what we can, what I'll call the 3 trainings. And this is what the main point of our conversation today, the 3 trainings. So these kusala states, they also have characteristics, general characteristics, just like the akusalas also had. So they have the opposite characteristics. So if you remember, akusala states, they associate greed, hatred, and delusion. So kusala states, they associate opposite roots, opposite mental factors, which can put as they associate, they are together with alobha in Pali, which is we could say as detachment, adosa, which is non-hatred. I'll put it under here. Non-hatred. Non-hatred is just a general term. It could apply to what we call several mental states, such as loving kindness is a type of non-hatred, or patience is also a main type of non-hatred. Alobha, detachment, for example, it occurs, it's associated to when we give something or we renounce something. So it's connected to these states of detaching. And last but not least, amoha, which is a state of non-delusion, which we could call just here knowledge. Knowledge. Okay, so these are bright mental states that counteract the other unwholesome roots. So they are called roots because when they occur in the mind, they are not always in the mind, but when they do occur, they make the mind quite strong. Just like roots make trees very stable and strong, these mental states, they are called roots because they also make the mind very stable on the object. So whenever they arise, the mind is a bit stronger. Okay? So kusala states, bright mental states, they associate one of these roots, 2 or 3 of these roots. They also produce or bring up tranquility. So they tranquilize the mind. Tranquilize the mind, the mental stream, opposed to the akusalas that break that tranquility, right? And they support, or maybe even lighten, maybe we could say, lighten the body. So here again, the connection between the mind, mental states, and our body. So this is also a way in which kusala brings not only mental tranquility, mental health, we could say, but it also brings bodily health, bodily tranquility. And final characteristic, most important here and most difficult to see, remember, is that it produces, this is what we cannot see easily, produces good results. Okay, good, pleasant results in the future. Could be in this life, but most often in future lives. Okay? And this is directly connected to the law of kamma vipaka. Kamma and vipaka. Actions and their karmic result, let's say. No? So we have these bright mental states, and we have to develop them, develop the counterparts of the unwholesome ones. So the counterparts to the unwholesomes can be trained or can be developed in 3 trainings. So the 3 trainings, called 3 sikkha's in Pali, sikkha's, trainings. Okay, 3 trainings. These 3 trainings are wholesome mental states that we can develop. They do not necessarily occur all together at the same time in the mind, but through our practice that we'll discuss, they can arise and strengthen each other. Okay, so these 3 trainings are sila, which is the training in maybe morality or ethics. the training in samadhi. Samadhi is a concentration. And the training in panya. I write a bit fast just as a reference, okay? Panya, which is the training is wisdom. Okay? So these three trainings, we could call them Sila Sikha, Samadhi Sikha, Panya Sikha. Okay? These three trainings are the way to counteract those unwholesome dark states and gradually remove them from our mind. Now, to understand this a little bit better, I'll open them up a little bit and do a parallel with what we very often discuss in the Buddhist teachings, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. Probably one of the first things we learn, right? So I'll put here as the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so what is the Noble Eightfold Path related to Sikha, to the three trainings? And it will help us understand the trainings as well. So in the Sila Sikha, in the training of morality, we have three factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Normally, the Noble Eightfold Path begins with samadhi, which is the right view, right? Which is wisdom. That's actually in the panya state. So here we are following a different order. But they all help each other, so it's not so important. Depends on what you want to emphasize. So the factors that refer to Sila Sikha are Samma Vaca. I'll put them in English, no? Samma Vaca is right speech. Right speech, for example, is the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. That is under Sila. Next one is right action. For example, abstaining from killing. For example, right action. Okay? And the last one is right livelihood. Livelihood. This is livelihood here refers to abstaining from doing, for example, breaking the 5 precepts in order to make a livelihood, and also abstaining from wrong types of trade. Okay? So these three factors of the Noble Eightfold Path fall under this Sila Sikha, morality training. Okay? Now, if we continue Noble Eightfold Path, the next factors are Samma Vayama, so that's right, maybe effort, we could say. The effort in brief to remove defilements, and the effort to develop and strengthen good mental states. That's right effort. Sometimes mindfulness is confused with attention.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, great. So let me resume. So where did I stop? Like, where did it glitch?
It wasn't that long actually. You were talking about right effort and then right mindfulness, but I think we didn't really hear much about right mindfulness. You had just talked about right effort.
Okay. So we're making here the parallel between Noble Eightfold Path and the three trainings, right? So we discussed right effort, the effort to basically the effort to remove unwholesome states and develop right states, good mental states, and right mindfulness, which what I was saying is that sometimes mindfulness is just kind of oversimplified as attention. And mindfulness is more than attention, is actually, for example, if we're doing an unwholesome deed, there's also attention at that time. But that's not mindfulness. So we have to differentiate mindfulness and attention. Okay, so I was just mentioning that sometimes mindfulness is confused or oversimplified as attention. And then mindfulness is more than attention. It keeps the mind in the wholesome state. So mindfulness is always wholesome. So whenever there is attention on a wrong way, in an unwholesome way, then there is no mindfulness at that time. So that means that there is a difference between mindfulness and attention. Okay? So mindfulness keeps the mind on the object, yes, but it keeps the mind on the object with a right perspective. So it's a right attention in a sense. Okay? And the last factor here, which falls into samadhi, is right concentration. Right concentration. Okay, right concentration, we're going to discuss more in depth soon. Okay, so these three together under the Noble Eightfold Path actually could be put as samadhi sikha, the training in samadhi. It doesn't mean that any effort is only connected with samadhi, but they can be put, they are main factors in the development of samadhi. They all help each other, so we cannot really separate them that much, but they all help each other, and they are all have some, let's say, main functions in each training. So under this training of samadhi, these are the strong factors occurring in the mind, okay? And then to put an end to this, we have right view, which is wisdom, and right thought. Right thought. And these two fall under the Panya Sikha. So this is the development of wisdom. Actually, we could, for example, sometimes the Buddha starts teaching from here, right view, right thought, right speech, and so on. He follows that order. Because these factors of the Noble Eightfold Path and also the three trainings, they help each other. So with understanding of the law of karma, how one actions produce result according to their nature, one undertakes precepts and restrains oneself, for example. So panya leads to sila. And sila, that restraint, kind of calms calms down the mind, and it helps develop meditation, so it leads to samadhi. And greater samadhi leads to greater panya, which leads to greater sila, so they're helping each other like maybe like a wheel or like a snowball. Okay, so in some cases we can start teaching from here, or in some cases we can start teaching from here. It's just interesting to know that they all help each other. These are all mental states, even though they occur at different mind moments sometimes, they all support each other, and they grow, and they are able to suppress the unwholesome dark states. Okay? So, before I continue a little bit more in detail, I'll go into detail a little bit about sila and samadhi, for the most part. I just want to make a parallel now, how these trainings actually suppress or remove the three avatars that we discussed, the three stages of unwholesome states. So we had the three avatars, the three stages of unwholesome states. Here we're talking about unwholesome, right? They were, if you remember, anusya, which is the latent, I'll put it in English, latent state. We had the manifest, the stage in which the defilement appears in the mind, actually occurs, and the state of transgression. Okay? State of transgression, it leads to bodily and verbal actions, unwholesome especially. And on the other hand, we have the three trainings over here. The three trainings, which were sila, okay, ethics, and concentration, samadhi, and panya, wisdom. Now, as we discuss, we'll discuss a little bit about sila, samadhi, and mainly these two, and a little bit about panya. But sila, especially, overcomes or suppresses the transgression stage. So think of this, for example, as the defilement that overflows into speech and bodily actions, right? So when we undertake precepts, for example, we're actually setting boundaries to those unwholesome states. They may still occur in the mind, so that's a manifest state, but we limit how much it will lead into actions. We limit the state or the stage of transgression. So sila helps suppress this the level of transgression of defilements. Okay? Then we'll discuss samadhi. Samadhi will help remove or suppress the manifest state. So just by undertaking sila, we will abstain from unwholesome bodily deeds and unwholesome verbal deeds, but still those states of greed, hatred, and delusion will still occur in the mind, right? The sila by itself, the precepts are not enough to keep them at bay, right? So samadhi is what will do that. So that's already entering into meditation. Samadhi and panya, they are not completely exclusive to meditation. We can develop them also outside of meditation, but on a higher level, they, yes, belong to meditation. So higher samadhi will tackle the manifest stage of akusalas in the mind, and then it will remove especially the grossest ones. This is just in a general sense. It will remove the manifest stage. So the samadhi will bring us really a much greater peace of mind than just sila can bring. Okay? And then, in order to remove the latent defilements, which actually produce rebirth, for example, we need not only samadhi, but we also need this training in panya. We need to develop understanding, especially this direct insight, vipassana, into formations, into realities that comprise ourselves and comprise the world. We need to understand them in a penetrative, direct way with wisdom in order to overcome any deep defilements and remove these deep defilements with the noble path at the end of vipassana. Okay? So this is how the three trainings, one by one, overcome these three stages of defilements. Interesting here is that the transgression, if we remove the transgression with sila, it can still come back, right? At a later stage. And if we develop samadhi, then it's deeper, let's say the level of purification or the level of freedom we achieve is much deeper and long-lasting, but it can still come back. But the panya can produce, especially the vipassana and lokuttara chittas or supramundane knowledge, supramundane panya, can really destroy defilements on a very, very deep level, and then they cannot return anymore. So that's the goal, right? Okay, so we have these three stages. Now I'll focus a bit on sila. Okay, so we're discussing about ethics here. Sila sikha. Sila sikha, as we discussed already, is the ethics, morality. So it involves undertaking precepts, for example. Sila, you can divide it into things that you should do and things that you should not do. Charita and Varita sila. There are many classifications of sila. Recently, we studied, I think, 51 types of sila. So here we just discussed a little bit the essence, and one of the classifications that will connect to Bhante Magavihari's talk that is upcoming here for you. So sila, this word sila, it comes from there are different ways of forming this word, but one of the word formations is from silana. Silana has two aspects in order to understand it. Before translating this, I'll divide it into two and you understand silana. So silana has two aspects. One is samadhana. Samadhana. Samadhana is a type of kind of restraint. So maybe restraint. And there is another word which is composure. That's the word. Composure. Okay? So samadhana here, under the context of sila, is a type of composure. Composure here refers to bodily and verbal actions. Most of the time, sila refers to bodily and verbal, okay? Mental already comes under samadhi and panya, okay? So this composure, this restraint, or even if we translate it a bit literally, it could be like non-scatteredness, if that's even a word. So that non-scatteredness of bodily actions and non-scatteredness of verbal actions is an aspect of sila, okay? An aspect of ethics. And the other one is upadharana. Upadharana is being like a foundation. Foundation. Foundation here is a foundation for higher spiritual states, maybe we could say. So states of meditative attainments, for example, jhanas, and of course, attaining nibbana, so supramundane consciousnesses. So all those higher developed states of mind depend on this foundation of sila. So sila acts at the same time as a type of composure or peacefulness in terms of body and speech, but it also acts as a foundation, as a base for all the other good, wholesome states to occur in the mind. So this means that without sila, without a basic sila, we are unable to develop higher states of mind. For example, we're unable to develop jhanas or even, let's say, upachara samadhi, and let alone attain nibbana. So this is a foundation as a base, and that's expressed here by this word, upadharana, upadharana. So these two aspects are aspects of sila. It composes bodily and verbal actions, and it also serves as a foundation for higher spiritual or noble states. Now, this sila sikha, or the sila in general, I'll classify it into three parts. I think I fit over here. 3 parts called hina sila. We could call it maybe inferior ethics or inferior morality, inferior virtue. And majjhima is maybe middle strength or middle. And panita sila is a superior virtue or superior sila. This can actually, 3 types of sila, hina sila, majjhima sila, and panita sila, can be so divided depending on several factors actually. But today I'll take one of them, and it's based on iddhipadas. Iddhipadas. So based on iddhipadas, sila can be divided into hina, majjhima, and panita. So what are iddhipadas? I won't go in depth into iddhipadas. This is where I leave you with an invitation to join Bhante Magavihari's talk, which I think will happen soon, right? I think it was maybe May 16th. Not sure. You can check.
Yes,
Is it?
In May, that's correct. I can't remember the date, but
in May, I think it was 16th, but you can check. So Bhante will
19th.
Yeah.
May 19th.
Okay, May 19th. So Bhante Magavihari, one of my teachers, he will discuss about the iddhipadas. So I'll just very briefly tell you what iddhipadas are, just to kind of connect with his talk a little bit. So the iddhipadas, they are, let's say, they are mental factors, or let's say not mental factors actually, they are mental states in general that serves as a kind of a leader in what refers to the mind. So the mind works as a group of mental factors, a group of mental states performing functions. Each one performs their own function, and they have also collective functions. And when it comes to performing actions and achieving goals, there are four of these mental states that take the leadership, that they guide the others. So they are the driving power. One of them is chanda. Chanda is a desire. Desire. Next one is vidya. Vidya is effort. It's also a leading mental factor. And the next one is chitta. Chitta is consciousness itself. Consciousness. And the last one is vimamsa. Vimamsa is another word for wisdom. Wisdom. So these are four mental states that are really powerful leaders in what comes to really like achieving goals. So even this you'll see in Bhante Magavihari's talk, that this applies even when you're pursuing let's say non-spiritual goals in life, worldly goals in life, and also applies very much in our meditation. So meditative attainments also have these iddhipadas. And only one of them at a time can take this leadership. So each individual, each different person might be more driven by one of these four. Some people attain their goals driven by a strong desire to attain. That's what drives them. Or they can attain their goals by means of strong effort, or by means of this consciousness. You'll discuss what it is, which is keeping the goal in mind and inclining towards it. And vimamsa, or wisdom. Some people achieve their goals by means of wisdom, investigation, understanding. So these are the iddhipadas. So when we're practicing sila, these iddhipadas occur in the mind as well. And depending on their strength, depending on their intensity, we can classify sila as more inferior if the iddhipadas are weaker, or kind of middle strength if they are stronger, or if they are very strong, they can be called panita. So since they associate sila, then we can classify sila according to those iddhipadas. Okay, so we have hina as weaker iddhipadas. Maybe I'll put here as weak iddhipadas. Majjhima sila is with maybe middle strength iddhipadas, middle strength. Strength, iddhipadas, okay, I'll go back to iddhipadas. Or panita is like a superior or very powerful states of iddhipadas. So depending on these iddhipadas, we can classify sila. One of the ways we can classify this sila. Okay, now let's move on to the next training. Okay, next training is samadhi. Samadhi is mainly concentration. Concentration is a state of it's called avikepa. Avikepa. Okay, in Pali most often refers to na, which is not. And vikepa refers to two mental states which are quite opposed to concentration. One of them is restlessness. Restlessness. And the other one is doubt. So these two mental states are called vikepa. They scatter the mind. Okay, it's the opposite of concentration. And concentration samadhi is not vikepa. Okay, so it's a mental state that really unifies the mind, brings all the mental factors together to stay on the same object for a long time. Okay, and that enables the mind to understand things deeper. This is why concentration samadhi leads to panya, leads to knowledge. Okay, so this samadhi can be developed by means of many kamathanas, by means of many ways, not only through meditation, but most intensely through meditation. So the development of samadhi involves 5 important mental factors that help this concentration strengthen and maintain the mind on the object. So they are called the 5 jhana factors. Jhanangas, okay? Jhana factors. They are like an initial application of the mind, initial thought or initial application. Okay, I'll call it application. It's a force that applies the mind to the object, brings the mind to the object. Then we have a vichara is like a subsequent application. There's several translations to it. I'll put it as subsequent application, maybe. Or examination is a type of examination of the object. Next one is piti, which is a strong zest or happiness, type of happiness that occurs in the mind. The next one is, we can translate it as happiness or pleasure. Pleasure, which is also normally very close to piti. It's only separated in higher stages of meditation, but it's more subtle than piti. And finally, our main factor over here, which is, I'll put the Pali here, ekaggata is an important word. Ekaggata, which is kind of a unification of mind. This is concentration, okay? Concentration. Okay, so we have these 5 factors, which again are mental states that we have to develop, to strengthen in order to maintain the mind on an object and be able to develop deep concentration and then again, deep wisdom. And they counteract unwholesome mental states, which are the very opposite of our concentrated state that we are trying to develop. And they are the main hindrances. Among all the unwholesome states, there are some of them, 5, actually 6 we could say, that are the main hindrances for the development of concentration. Okay? They are called the 5 nivaranas, 5 hindrances. 5 hindrances. We could say 6. There is a sutta that adds an extra one, but I'll keep it to 5 right now, the main 5. The first one is sensual desire. Especially sexual desire here. Not any desire of the senses, but really here is a stronger sexual desire. Is one of the main hindrances for the development of concentration. The next one is a type of, like, maybe let's call it aversion, vyapada. Anger, states of anger. Okay. Next one is states of like torpor, maybe torpor, or we could call it, some people translate it as sloth and torpor, laziness, we could say as well. Next one is restlessness. Restlessness connected or due to remorse. It's not just any restlessness, it's a restlessness here that really prevents you from concentrating. It happens because of omissions or commissions. For example, we think of past things that we did wrong, for example, or things that omissions that we didn't do that we perceive we should have done. So thinking of those things, good things that we didn't do or bad things that we did, this type of kukucha, this mental state of guilt can arise, and then it becomes a major hindrance for the meditative development. Okay, so it's here under restlessness and remorse. And last but not least is doubt. Let me put it in English, doubt. Doubt here, since this type of practice can be developed even outside Buddhism, it's not exclusive to Buddhism to this point. This doubt is not necessarily about the triple gem, for example, though it can be doubt, is about those things as well. But here it's also doubt about the object of meditation and about how to develop it, and maybe doubts about maybe your possibility of achieving it, or doubts about the teacher who is guiding you. So these types of doubts can really prevent you from practicing and improving in your meditation. So these 5 hindrances are directly counteracted by these jhana factors. Okay? And throughout the practice of concentration and the practice which we call samatha, we can gradually slowly weaken these unwholesome states of the hindrances and gradually free our minds from them, because they arise kind of habitually in our minds. Since we're young, they kind of, sometimes we even encourage them to arise. We look for things to increase our lust, for example. Or sometimes we often may pay attention to things that make us angry, for example. So sometimes these mental states are even encouraged or incentivized somehow. So here with this practice of concentration, by keeping the mind on a suitable object mindfully with a proper attention, we can gradually weaken these unwholesome states. Kind of reconnect, if we think in terms of nowadays with neurologies or neuroscience, we can kind of rewire the brain and change the habits that we have. Okay? Now, yes, so in this development, which is a process that may take quite a while, we have a few landmarks. So let's say between the beginning of our practice, beginning of our meditative practice, development of concentration, until the end, or let's say when it's quite complete or quite fulfilled, let's say it's a state of jhana, for example, that would be like 100% at least. There are higher jhanas we can develop, so there is more to develop, but I want to focus on what most meditators are focusing on, which is this period of time between the first time we sit until we can actually concentrate the mind successfully. So this period of time can be quite difficult because we are fighting the hindrances. When we sit to meditate and we try to keep the mind on a suitable object for a long time, the hindrances kind of fight back. Even if our mind sometimes may feel like more turbulent when we are trying to calm it down. So during this period, it can be a bit difficult, or it can be quite very difficult. So some of the landmarks that we have during this practice are these, the 5 pittis. So if you remember, we discussed one of the mental factors here that help us counteract the hindrances is piti. It's a type of intense happiness. So during this period, as we progressively suppress the hindrances, occasionally intense happiness occurs in the mind. And these are the stages of piti. So piti, we could classify piti into 5 like stages of piti. Piti, now you know, is like a zest or a special happiness, quite intense. First one, in the beginning, usually we experience them one by one, more or less on this order, but it can vary depending on the meditator. And sometimes the intensity also may vary. But the first one is kind of a momentary, or first one is momentary. I'll put directly the English. Momentary piti, momentary happiness. This is when you're meditating and quite unexpectedly surges of happiness occur and even gives you like goosebumps. So it's a very intense happiness that occurs, but it's quite short-lived. So it's brief but intense. Okay, so this is a momentary piti. Then it will fade away. It's natural. You keep meditating. Again, you will face difficulties, but you keep suppressing the hindrances, developing the good mental states, and so on. Eventually, piti may occur again, and then it will be called maybe kudaka piti, which is maybe small or short piti. This is piti a little bit stronger. So your hindrances have been suppressed a little deeper, and this kind of burst of happiness occurs, and it's compared to a lightning. So a lightning suddenly strikes, and this is a happiness that occurs, surges in your mind. Okay, it's also short-lived, like a lightning. Then we have Okantika. Sorry, Okantika. I'll put the English, right? Okantika piti. Actually, I don't know how to translate this very well. Okantika. Let me put Okantika. Okantika piti. Some people translate it as showering happiness, or it's more compared to like waves. So I don't know, we could find a word here that expresses a bit like the movement of the waves as they reach the shore. So the meditator, when this piti occurs, he is filled with happiness, and then it goes away, a bit like a wave. And then after maybe a few seconds, it comes again, fills you with great happiness, and again, it goes away. So it keeps coming and going with this wavering pattern. Okay, so this is the Okantika piti. It's a bit deeper than the previous ones. Next one is uplifting. Uplifting piti. This really intense piti, really kind of, it lasts a bit longer, it's more intense, and it really makes your body feel very, very light. Even there are stories in meditative books, meditation books, that say that some individuals, when they have this type of piti, may even float for a while. So this is uplifting. Uplifting. I hope you can understand this. And the last one and most important, here I'll put the Pali, is Paranapiti. Paranapiti is a pervading happiness. Pervading happiness. This is the most important piti that we have to achieve. So these pitis, they become actually, when you reach Paranapiti, it's actually more subtle, but it's more stable and easier to manage, because when the others occur, your mind becomes excited, okay? But when you have Paranapiti, it's already a mature happiness that lasts a long time and really fills your body and mind fully, and it's compared to a water, like a great wave of water, a mass of water completely filling a cave. So that's how your body and mind are filled with this continuous pervading happiness. So these states of happiness, they occur over here. So you have here, during this period, you have the 5 stages of piti. They occur throughout this development, okay? And depending on which type of piti you experience, you have more or less as a landmark of how far you've been or how deep you've been into this practice of concentration, of removal, of suppression of defilements, okay? So we have 5 stages of piti. And then when this paranapiti becomes really strong and stable, and whenever you meditate, it occurs in the mind, and it really fills your mind, and it lasts a long time, even when you're not meditating, and may be there present in your mind, like a quality that you achieve. Then the hindrances are suppressed. So here there is a main achievement during this period, which is called a suppression of hindrances. Okay? So there is a period over here, I don't know, maybe 70-80% along this path, that you'll be able to kind of fully suppress the hindrances greatly. Not completely 100%, they may still occur, and you may still come back to this side and that side. It's not a very straightforward development. But there is this moment in which the hindrances are greatly suppressed, and your mind is able to kind of lift up into almost like another level. And this is actually another level, which is called Upachara Samadhi. In terms of stages of concentration, we have 3 stages of concentration. Before that, we have a preliminary concentration. Preliminary concentration. And later, at a later stage, we'll have here Upachara Samadhi, which is called maybe vicinity, neighborhood, okay? Neighbor, or you, if you want to add over here, neighborhood concentration. Okay, this is a state quite free from hindrances, so it's beyond this point. Okay, neighborhood concentration. And then after this, you keep strengthening. This period of the practice is much more pleasant. You're not fighting the hindrances as much. Your mind is already kind of out of that mud of the hindrances, and you can really now just strengthen the good mental states, and you achieve eventually the state of absorption. So here, from this point onwards, we would achieve a state of absorption. Absorption concentration. Okay, concentration. So we have stages of piti as kind of small landmarks. We have a preliminary concentration in the beginning. Then when we are finally able to suppress the hindrances, we enter neighborhood concentration. The mind is much stronger. And eventually we are able to attain this absorption in which your mind is really locked with the object and kind of safe. And you can develop this state and it becomes kind of available to you. So you can enter this peaceful state, free from hindrances, often, as much as you want. Okay, so this is a bit of an overview. There is much more we could discuss. A bit of an overview of this development of concentration. Okay, now,
Bhante? Sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, Bhante. So this is really genuinely such a good structured talk and conversation. We would love for this to go on for a lot longer, but it is 8:13 p.m. We've got around 17 minutes. Wondering if we can have some time for questions or...
Questions? Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of questions. I myself have a few as I was watching this. I think it's so wonderful.
Yes. So, I was trying to fit in the time, the schedule we have, but it really was maybe not enough, but I think it was a good intro and a good amount of info. And I was actually trying to come now to our meditation subject today.
Oh, great.
So you like to do the meditation or would you like to do question and answers? I don't know if we can do just a short meditation. What do you suggest?
Absolutely, Bhante. Please do meditation. We have an attending person too who's asked for meditation as well.
Meditation?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, and maybe just for now, I suggest a shorter one, just because we also have people who might want to ask questions later on, Bhante. Yeah, it was quite a big topic, and you covered a lot. And thank you so much for making it very structured. Somebody actually commented it feels a little bit like Buddhist university, which I agree with.
Oh,
But
wow.
but I remember Bhante Sujaro once said, we've been attending a lot of Dharma talks, which is nice and stuff, but then people often forget those things again. So sometimes you need something that that is structured, so it anchors, it's a point of reference so that we can remember those, because otherwise we forget again, even after many years. But if you don't mind, that we can move on to the Q&A and meditation, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll just link with the meditation. I'll try to do it quick. So in order to develop all that process of meditation, we need a suitable object. So the object I'm going to bring up today, among the many objects we have, the Buddha left us like about 40 meditation subjects. One is, among the Brahma Viharas, there is Karuna, which is the development of compassion. So this quality of compassion can serve as let's say, as an object for that development of concentration. And that's what I want to bring you today. So Karuna is just is a mental state that doesn't bear another person's suffering, another living being's suffering, it kind of brings you to action in order to free others from suffering. So it's the main wish, the main thought that brings up karuna is in Pali dukkha muccatu, which in Pali means may you be free from suffering. Okay? May you be free from suffering. And we can develop this towards living beings. This is the object. It must be a living being. And normally we begin a little bit towards ourselves, but we can develop concentration with a person we like. A person we like. Okay? That's usually the type of person we take to develop compassion. So today we're going to discuss, we're going to meditate a little bit on compassion, even if it's just a brief introduction to it. And it's a great quality because not only it suppresses states of anger towards others, especially it suppresses cruelty. That's the main thing that we suppress when we develop karuna. But it also serves as one of the key elements in order to develop paramis. This is especially true for those who are developing paramis for becoming Buddhas, Sammasambuddhas, fully enlightened Buddhas. They depend on this karuna, this quality of karuna, in order to develop their paramis. So it's a really special quality that we can use to develop concentration. Okay? So now I'll sit here. Nikesh, could you help me? Okay. So now I'll just ask you to maybe sit with in a good posture that you feel comfortable, especially with your back straight. This really helps your concentration. Maybe your shoulders usually a little bit back. This really helps your concentration. And just ask you to maybe listen to me a little bit. I'll guide you through this meditation. So first, I want you to think, to use this thought directed to yourselves. When we develop metta, loving kindness, and karuna, compassion, we can develop it first a little bit towards ourselves. I think for some people it might be quite useful to develop a little bit of compassion towards yourself. This is just to establish that state of compassion. So just for a moment, wish yourselves to be free from suffering. Just produce this thought, may I be free from suffering? And let your mind be stable and gradually concentrate on this thought. May I be free from suffering? Now with this kind of foundation, we can extend this same wish, this same mental state towards someone that we respect, someone a bit close to us, someone you like, but that is not too close to you, someone you respect, for example. And he must be someone living, and preferably of the same sex as well. But it must be living. So just try to remember this person. It helps to see them in front of you. And you have to, in order to develop compassion, we have to think of them from the perspective of wishing them to be free from suffering. So we have to think of them as suffering beings. And all beings in samsara are suffering from birth, aging, death, and defilements. So from this perspective, you just think of this person that you like, and you wish that may this good person be free from suffering. From time to time, you can again think the same words, may this good person be free from suffering. That helps stabilize your mind. And if you get distracted, you just return to the object and again think the same thought. May this person be free from suffering. As you keep thinking this compassionate thought, gradually compassion itself becomes clearer, becomes a bit stronger, and you'll be able to understand compassion better. And now it would be great to continue this practice and get deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper. But now let's open for your questions so you can relax. And I'd like to hear maybe a few of your questions. This is actually, interestingly, the first online Dhamma talk that I think I give. So thank you for having me. And thank you, Sin and Sophie and Metta Center in general for giving me this chance. And I hope it was good for you. And I hope you can, with this base, you can develop this compassion and other qualities as well. So do we have any questions?
Indeed, Bhante, we're so grateful.
Yeah.
We're the first place that you decided to speak at
Yes, I
online.
think
What a
I did this.
treasure it is that you have shared with us this very structured way of relating all these beautiful concepts that we hear from different talks, and now we able to like connect them in some way. We
Thank
do
you
have
very much.
questions. One of them, Bhante, is on suppression. So you mentioned that with jhana states and deeper meditative states, defilements are suppressed. Can you please talk a little bit more about that? Because people, we may misunderstand it to be suppression as in repressing things in our meditation, but that might be different to what you're actually talking about in terms of suppressing the defilements. And everyone else, I also invite you to ask your questions in the chat if you have any, and also in person. Yep, you do have one later. Yep.
Yeah, and Sophia, I think it's also very similar to what was written in the chat, and which is very similar to what you were saying, Sophia. This person says, when you say suppression of hindrances during practice concentration, if hindrances the hindrances will rebound to be stronger later? Because also I wanted to ask you that question, Bhante. The word suppression has a tone of tension somehow. Maybe that's just the translation, maybe just the word itself. But I'd like you to perhaps elaborate on that or clarify that, Bhante. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. That's a very important point, actually, and it's not the first time people ask. So suppression, here I understand when we try to, nowadays I think especially from the side of maybe psychology, we understand or their perspective is that when we repress things, they might tend to kind of become stronger or express themselves in another way or something like that, right? So what we're doing in meditation is, the word is pahana, okay? It's a type of abandonment. But there's many levels of this pahana. For example, when we develop concentration, by maintaining the mind with wholesome states, the unwholesome states become kind of weaker and weaker. Sometimes they try to occur during this practice. It's normal. There is a bit of, when you're trying to calm down, for example, or you're trying to avoid these mental states, if you lose balance and you lose mindfulness, then they will kind of oppress you. They'll appear as grosser. But there is one important factor here, is that as your mind becomes stronger, you're able to see these factors more clearly. So you are gradually kind of calming down these defilements. I think that's a better term, which is, in Pali, we call it vikambana pahana. Okay? Vikambana pahana. You're calming them down by avoiding them. You're avoiding them, avoiding the unwholesome states, and developing the good states that oppose them. That's how you kind of calm them down. You weaken them, okay? But it's different from a repression that causes stress, for example. So in meditation, sometimes your mind may get out of balance, and then these defilements may occur. And because your mind is actually getting stronger and stronger, you will experience those defilements as if they were more intense, because your mind now is getting more and more pure. Think of a person who, for example, is used to killing. He's able to kill with what he perceives as a very normal mind. For him, it's normal. He doesn't see the grossness of the hatred in the mind. But if that person starts to meditate, he will start perceiving that anger that for him before was almost like normal. Maybe he would not even see it as anger. He would now start to see it as a very gross and ugly mental state. So that doesn't mean the anger is now stronger, but now he's able to see it more clearly because his mind is more pure. His mind is more concentrated. When your mind is concentrated, you can focus on things clearly, because the mind can take objects for a long period of time. So if you focus on the object in a wrong way, it can be quite like a telescope. It will make it appear as a big thing, okay? But this is a process that helps you actually find more and more subtle defilements. So when you're in deeper states, the deeper you go, more subtle these imbalances or hindrances appear to you. But you're able to see them more clearly because your mind is stronger, because your mind is more concentrated, because your mind is calmer. So don't be afraid if they appear as a bit stronger. You have to just calibrate your mind, come back, develop the opposite state. It's normal during this process. It's not a very smooth process to develop concentration. You are kind of fighting the hindrances, but don't let that feeling that it will get strong, don't think it will get stronger. It's actually gradually removing them, okay? So this is one type of bhana, just to complete. Later, in other types of practice, for example, vipassana, we have another type of bhana, which is more a substitution, it's called. Then when you finally see nibbana for the first time, you have another type of abandonment, which is actually destruction. So there are like levels of abandonment of defilements. So this is the one that is more connected to the development of concentration. I hope you got this idea that they are gradually kind of calm down.
Thank you, Bhante.
Sophia and also Bhante, thank you so much. But I just wanted to say we are conscious of the time now. We still want to hear a lot from you, Bhante. I believe people have a lot of questions as well. So I've just got a suggestion, and what do you guys think? Bhante Ariyañāṇa is actually coming back to run another session on the 16th of June, and that's just the day after Bhante Sanatha Vihari leaves. So by the way, for some of you who don't know, Bhante Sanatha Vihari is coming back to Sydney very soon on the 27th of May. So would you like to I have two options, I think, Sophia. So people who would like to ask questions, maybe they can stay, but then the rest can go if they want to. And I also need to go myself in about 10 minutes. Or do you think maybe we can ask questions in the next session, Bhante? Perhaps maybe something that's related to this if people have questions. What do you think?
Yeah, for me, I'm available here. I think the studio here is available also for some time. So I can stay 10, 15 more minutes, up to you, okay?
That might sound good. Yeah, so if people have questions now, they can get them resolved rather than like next session, have to wait for a month. But since they if you need to leave early, totally feel free to. We can close off the session formally now, and we can have some questions after. How does that sound? So people can leave if you need to leave and so on.
I think that's great.
Yeah, there is one question here. It says, if the defilement is in clearer focus through the microscope of meditation, will the hindrance then diminish over time as we develop more skill and wisdom through wholesome practices? So that's the question.
Yes, that's perfectly put. As you strengthen the good side of the mind, then you're able to see more clearly and understand the hindrances, the bad side. You're able to see it, spot it more clearly, and you're able to see more subtle imbalances in your mind. And this gradually weakens the hindrances, and it strengthens the good side. So the sila will become stronger, the samadhi will become stronger, the panya will become stronger, and eventually you will reach that point where I showed you, where there is an important suppression, a sudden, quite important shift in the mind, in which you can come to upachara samadhi, and your meditation really can improve. But this, in the beginning, you may achieve this kind of higher level, and you may come back to the normal stage again, trying to balance the mind. This is part of the struggle. You have to struggle to balance the mind. And if you really fall out of balance, the defilements will overtake. So you have to be skillful, like keeping a balance. If you imagine you're walking on a line, you have to really keep your balance. And as the line becomes a bit subtle, smaller, thinner, you have to really be careful to keep that mind in balance. But eventually you're able to achieve a kind of a really good stability, and the hindrances are suppressed.
Thank you, Bhante. And we have one question in person too.
Hi, Bhante.
Hello?
Mine is quite a simple question. You mentioned about getting pain in the body, etc., and you kind of related it to akusala thoughts. Can you say a little bit about it? What I'm wondering is that sometimes, let's say, if I have a bad thought in my mind, I may not immediately recognize it, but I might get maybe a short time later, perhaps I might develop a pain in my neck or back or something. Would that be an indication for me to look into my mind?
Yes, for sure. Like if we look into disease in general, there are several causes for disease, not only the mind. We cannot try to oversimplify it and say that any disease is because of a mental state. We cannot say that. Even arahants or even the Buddha occasionally experience some of these diseases. So diseases can be produced by past karma, akusala karma, can be produced by mind, unwholesome mental states, or exacerbated by unwholesome mental states. They can also be produced by just weather conditions, too cold, too hot, for example. Or due to nutriment, whatever we consume, we drink, we eat, that can also cause some imbalances in the body and produce disease. So we cannot really oversimplify and say it's a mental state. But it's clear that mental states have an effect on the body. That mechanism is shown through the rupa kamatana, or when we study rupa. What is materiality? We study the aggregate of rupa. And we see that rupa is produced by different causes, and one of them is the mind. So when we have good mental state, bright mental states, higher quality rupas are produced in the mind, and they affect the entire body. So we can just, a simple example is, for example, when we have laziness, for example, that also affects kind of your body, and you feel like a heaviness. Your body's like heavier than normal because of the laziness, lack of energy. It's also a mental thing. And or if we are afraid, for example, the body also reacts in a certain way, right? And we may even have diseases like that. Or psychosomatics, what we use nowadays, the term psychosomatic, for example, could be things connected to mental states. Okay, so it doesn't, we can explain it how chitta produces rupa, but in terms of disease and so on, for example, there is no such deep analysis. For example, if you have a neck pain is related to this mental state, it's not analyzed at this level, but just at this general sense that disease, yes, can be produced or can be connected to mental states, unwholesome mental states, and that unwholesome mental states oppress the body in this sense. A person who is sad, who is depressed, I think we can see it even in modern research. People who are happier live longer, right? So this shows this connection.
Bhante, I think that's all the questions we have. Cincy, should I pass over to you to close up the session?
Okay. Yeah, Sophie. So just to conclude today, I hope it was I think very good. At least for me, it was very good. It was good for me to teach you all of that. I make merit, certainly by preparing and by delivering this to you. and I hope you enjoyed. You could follow. It was not too difficult, and I hope you can use this type of meditation, compassion, in your daily life. This is particularly useful if you're dealing with many people. If you have strong karuna, you can really improve your relationships with others and a little bit with yourself as well, if you can sometimes do it for yourself. But to develop deep concentration, you should develop it towards someone else. This is only when it gets really stronger and deeper. So let's share our merit in a traditional way. So if you're there, you can just follow me. I'll say the Pali and we share our merits and make an aspiration so that these merits become a foundation, as a foundation or a supporting cause for our development in this noble path to develop these good qualities, sila, samadhi, and panya, and attain whatever your noble goals and wishes are, and attain nibbana as soon as possible. Okay. Idang me punyang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idang me punyang nibbana sapaccayo hotu. Mama punya bhagang sabba sattanang bhajimi. Te sabbe me samang punya bhagang labhantu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for having me. You have a good night.
Thank you so much, Bhante. Thank you for such a structured talk. I definitely need to listen to it again to process and digest the information. But you've given us a lot of information to refer to. Thank you so much, and we look forward to welcoming you back again on the 16th of June, and we'll communicate about the topic. Okay, Bhante. I just want to say something else, Bhante. The chanting that you did right at the beginning of the session, it's very beautiful. A very beautiful melody, I think, and I don't know what people think. I think it's very nice, yeah, that chanting, and I'd like to hear that version again from you one day. Okay.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. And also, before you go, oh, sorry.
Sorry, I missed that, Cincy.
Oh, I just said I don't think I said anything. I just said it was very nice, that the melody, the tune. So I'd like to maybe get that version from you at some point. Maybe.
Okay.
Sorry, Sophia.
Oh, good. Thank you, Cece. Thank you, Bhante. Really big appreciation.
Yes, thank you very much.
For you. Lots of thank yous in the chats. So many Anjalis and so many thank you so much, Bhante. I think people really benefited from the session. Eddie made a really funny comment that I'm gonna look for. Thanks for a very detailed explanation. I hope we don't have to a written test after this session, still catching up with the terms. So, but yeah, thank you so much, Bhante, and everyone for participating. We do have Ajahn Yo visiting next week. He's coming this Saturday, and his first session is Monday. Sorry? Monday the 12th, and then Wednesday he's also speaking here, or yeah, he's got a whole teaching tour scheduled. So, and also retreat coming up the 22nd to 25th. The spots are running out, so if you do still want to register, please register online.
And a bushwalk.
That's all we have
on the 17th, Saturday. Bushwalk, including sunset meditation. So not to be missed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come to Sydney. If you're not in Sydney, come down to Sydney. And we'll go on a hike together, and then a nature walk, and then we do meditation at the end with Ajahn Yu.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got to go, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye, Cincy. Thanks, everyone. Bye, everyone. And Bhante, I just want to make a quick comment. I also met Bhante Dhammadeepa, and I luckily did a retreat with him, and he's really one of my favorite teachers. He's so wonderful.
Yes. He was a great great example for me in the beginning. So knowledgeable, right? I think he speaks 11 languages. He was a professor. He's really a good example, I think, for us Westerners.
Yep. I learned from him like later on after he studied Pawok. He went to Taiwan, he went to Japan, and he studied Mahayana and Tibetan and Yogacara, I think. And I did a retreat with him where he taught all these different traditions. And yeah, so I was like, wow, amazing, absolutely. The languages, the knowledge, the practice. Yeah.
Yes, it's true.
Okay, all right. Good night. Nice to see you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Have a lovely evening and good night, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante.
Good night, Sophie. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.